In this new tutorial, we're going to sew an owl-shaped Lovey. Don't worry if you're new to sewing, this is an easy project. I recommend using double gauze cotton, but you can also have fun with faux fur. Supplies in the description. We will start simply by printing the 2 pages of the PDF pattern. In the comments, you can download it now from my online shop. Thank you so much for your support. Cut out the owl's body pattern along the solid line. Do the same for the head, but for the leg pattern, you'll need to cut directly along the dotted black seam line. You'll see why in a moment. Okay, let's start by making the owl's legs. Fold your orange fabric right sides together and pin the leg pattern in line with the grain. Trace around it once like this. Then use the same pattern beside it for the second leg. You can sew directly along the traced lines, leaving the base of the leg shown in red unstitched. That's the opening you will use to turn them right side out. Don't forget to backstitch at the beginning and end of all your seams. When sewing curves, lift the presser foot regularly so you can slightly pivot the fabric each time. Now trim all around the seams, leaving about a 5 mm seam allowance. Cut the base of the legs along the traced line, being careful not to clip into your stitching. Before turning the legs right side out, notch around the rounded tips. Let me take this moment to invite you to subscribe to my channel so you don't miss my next tutorials. Make sure to push the seams out neatly like this. At this step, I recommend pressing your legs flat with an iron. Now let's move on to the body of the owl's Lovey. Fold the fabric piece for the back parallel to the grain line before pinning the body pattern on top. This will be the first of the 3 identical pieces that will be layered to form the body. When cutting, make sure your scissors follow closely along the edge of the paper. Repeat this step a second time to get the middle layer of the body. And finish with the 3rd identical piece, which will be the tummy of the Lovey. We are going to mark the placement points on the right sides of this piece. But first, you'll need to snip the 2 notches for the legs on the body pattern like this. With a friction erasable pen, transfer the marks on both left and right sides. Also mark the center here, that will help us position the head later. To trace the top stitching line for the wings, simply fold the pattern along the corresponding line and use it as a guide. Good, now set all of that aside so we can focus on the owl's head. On the fabric you've chosen for the head, start by tracing the outer contour of the pattern. Then, cut out the owl's face along this solid line. Using a craft knife, cut along the eyelids and around the beak. To draw the embroidery details, first fit the 2 parts together so everything stays perfectly centered. When tracing the face details, you can, if you wish, add 3 small eyelashes. Since double gauze is rather thin, we'll embroider the owl's face on 2 layers of fabric. I highly recommend using an embroidery hoop to prevent the fabric from puckering. Out of the 6 strands in your embroidery floss, we'll only use 3. Cut a length of thread, separate 3 strands, and tie a small knot at one end. We'll use a simple embroidery stitch, the back stitch. Start by bringing your needle up at the beginning of the line. Insert it about 4 mm ahead. Then bring it up again the same distance forward and go back into the previous stitch, and so on. We will use this stitch for the face outline, eyelashes, eyelids, and around the beak. To fill in the beak, we will use satin stitch. From one edge of the beak to the other, make parallel stitching, placing each one right next to the last. Start with a line right down the center of the beak. Embroider the right side first, then move to the left. Make sure to stitch close to the outline, but just outside of it. And there you have it! Before assembling our Lovey, let's finish the head. Place a third layer of fabric right sides together. Be careful to leave a small opening at the top of the head, that's where we'll add stuffing later. And again, do not sew the base of the head so you can turn it right side out afterward. No need to cut out the head shape again, just stitch 5 mm from the existing edge. Before turning the owl's head, trim the 2 corners and notch around the curves. Alright, time to assemble all our pieces. First, align the layer with the markings on top of the middle layer. Then position the legs symmetrically along the fabric edge, matching the 2 small notches. It's normal if your legs don't reach the wing top stitch marks. I slightly adjusted the proportions in the final version of the pattern. Now we just need to pin the back fabric right sides together. But before sewing, mark a 6 cm opening at the top of one of the wings. Don't stitch across that part. Sew all around, this time with a 1 cm seam allowance. Next step, trim the tips of the wings and notch all the curves. before top stitching the wings. Secure the fabric layers with pins. For a nice and even top stitch, I recommend setting your stitch length to 3 mm. Now bring your old Lovey to life by adding a bit of stuffing into its head. It's time to close the 2 openings using an invisible stitch. You can be proud of yourself. Tell me in the comments which colors and fabric you chose for your Lovey. I'm sure it will bring sweetness to whoever receives it. See you soon!